giant Samsung saw phone sales fall over the fourth quarter as competition from Chinese rivals grew. That's according to new figures out Monday from data cruncher IDC. It says the period actually saw the global smartphone market rebound strongly after 2 years of decline. But it was Chinese brands reaping the benefits. Xiaomi was the fastest growing, with its shipments jumping over 15%. Others, including Oppo, also made gains. All told, that saw Chinese makers take 56% of the global smartphone market, their highest ever share. Meanwhile, Apple shipments fell 4.1% over the period. The US giant has resorted to rare discounting in a bid to turn things around. This month it has offered reductions of up to almost $70 on some iPhones in China. As for Samsung, its shipments were down 2.7% over the quarter. It's among firms grappling with one big market disappointment: the waning of consumer interest in folding phones. IDC says demand for foldables has fallen, despite intensified promotions and marketing. It says makers are now shifting research and development spending away from such devices in response.
Shares of Nvidia fell as much as 5% Monday morning, after the U.S. government said it would further restrict exports of artificial intelligence chips. The new regulations are aimed at keeping advanced computing power in the United States and among its allies, while finding more ways to block China's access. The U.S. will place new limits on advanced graphics processing units, or GPUs, which are used to power data centers needed to train AI models, most of which are made by NVIDIA. The company called the rules sweeping overreach and said the White House would be clamping down on technology that is already available in mainstream gaming PCs and consumer hardware. The restrictions do not apply to gaming chips. The regulations cap a 4-year effort by the administration of U.S. President Joe Biden to hobble China's access to advanced chips that can enhance its military capabilities and seek to maintain U.S. leadership in AI by closing loopholes and adding new guardrails to control the flow of chips. While it is unclear how President-elect Donald Trump's incoming administration will enforce the new rules, the two administrations share similar views on the competitive threat from China. The regulation is set to take effect 120 days from publication, giving the Trump administration time to weigh in. The policy would also impose new rules on companies involved in data centers like Oracle, Microsoft, and Amazon, whose shares also fell. Stocks finished mostly higher Monday, with the S&P 500 bouncing off a 2-month low, as U.S. Treasury yields stayed elevated, with investors dialing back expectations on the pace of interest rate cuts from the Federal Reserve. The Dow added almost 0.9%, while the S&P ended just slightly higher, but the Nasdaq fell nearly 0.4%. The Dow benefited from a 4% rise in United Health Group, after President Joe Biden's administration proposed 2026 reimbursement rates for Medicare Advantage plans run by private insurers, which would result in a 2.2% increase in payments. Treasury yields edged higher, with the benchmark 10-year note yield touching a 14-month high above 4.8%. Markets are currently pricing in one rate cut from the Fed this year, as inflation remains above the central bank's target and the economy continues to grow at a healthy clip. Winthrop Capital Management Chief Investment Officer Adam Coons remains cautious on stocks.
Most likely, we're going to have this dynamic where you're going to continue to see markets focused on what the Fed's doing and the health of the U.S. economy, which right now is very, very strong. But as soon as we see anything that shows that the U.S. economy might be turning over, I think you're going to see heightened volatility. So I think that's the thing to watch is, the economic data is probably going to have a heightened level of scrutiny this year because people will just continue to have this forecast that U.S. has to have a recession that hasn't happened in the last 2 years. And so you're going to have an increased kind of sensitivity to that within markets here in the next 6 months.
Other stocks on the move included NVIDIA, which slipped 2%. After the U.S. government said it would further restrict artificial intelligence chip and technology exports. And Moderna plunged 17%, making it the biggest decliner on the S&P 500, after slashing its 2025 sales forecast by $1 billion.